Good morning, afternoon. Sorry about that. Did just real dirty. My name is Rob Diamond, Rad Rob Diamond on Twitter. Sir Robert Six and all the main sites. I apologize for that. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, I just did like a 10-minute video and the mic was off for the entire thing. So basically, all anyone saw was just a whole bunch of me pointing the mic around or pointing my mouse around, which was rather irrelevant, I would have to assume. So I'm going to jump right back into this. I'm going to very quickly go over what I talked about because the schedule is obviously more important than what I'm quickly going to share first. And that was my takedown yesterday. Obviously, cash is really good. What I was saying was Ratsiski was someone I saved from the video for our Slack chat, just to kind of give you an idea of something I try and do a little bit different for the people that actually sign up for our website. He was definitely the sharpest play of the entire slate, and definitely was a cash lock without a doubt. So I was pretty happy to get him into cash and do so well. What I was saying about Laporte was I made this card literally 15 times, and the other way I was doing it was with Robert Olsen in a completely different situation in the flex, but I kept falling on Laporte every single time. It was over and over and over, and I couldn't fight it. So I took a risk and it really paid off, obviously. And I like Dzeko way more than Ronaldo because I couldn't see Juventus or Man United scoring more than a goal each. And obviously I saw Roma scoring at least 3, which is what happened. And luckily I still got Dzeko in at all 3, which is crazy. But it was incredible how few people are actually on him in both cash and GPP. But this was the 2 real big GPPs, obviously. I did incredible in the Golden Boot. I was actually outside the top 10 for most of the afternoon until the final few minutes when the clean sheets started rolling through. And I jumped from 12th to 3rd. And what I was saying again was I was talking to a lot of guys here on Twitter about what was happening, and I could tell it was going to be really close because I wasn't leaving the free. I was still top 7 in the free for most of the second half. As soon as Dzeko and under hit for that goal, I was basically top 10 in the free for most of the second half. So I knew that this was going to be close if I could just hit with the pay. And obviously, he hit, which was my entire slate relied on that goal from Depay. Like literally everything, cash and GPP, it would have been completely different situation. I took down just over $1,000 in this tournament and $70 from the free. I think we're actually $75. I'm not sure. But yeah, I was actually 3rd place, and I didn't think I was going to get anything better than 3rd, and I jumped up to 2nd. So that's kind of cool, just to do well in freeze. But yeah, really the big one was this here, was the takedown on the step over. If I had played either the 141 or the 145 in the real golden boot or the golden goal special, either or, it would have taken down. So I'm not really disappointed because at the same time I knew that I had the bankroll to go and play those tournaments. But I just, bankroll management is important, and it's good to succeed at the same time without risking too much, because I'm not going to lie, there were a couple NFL slates so far this season that I went overboard and I wasn't catching myself. And this past weekend, I absolutely caught myself, and I was talking to my best friend about it, how I reeled myself back about 30% more than I normally have in NFL, and I was feeling really good about it. It feels really good to succeed when you're being bankroll safe. It's just you just know you did it right. So I was really excited about that, and I had a couple more GPPs that were okay, like the Real Madrid one with the Marcelo goal, and obviously I got here too. And I jumped back on Ratsiski again, trying to catch a little bit of value and spend up. And I was actually surprised by that score without getting a goal too. But yeah, and quickly about hockey. It was impossible to win last night without any of the exposure to the Sharks, Preds, or the Penguins, Oilers, which was massive exposures on all sorts of sides. I had a couple of good GPPs. In general, it was a pretty disappointing hockey night. I definitely lost money, but I caught in a couple of them. If anyone watched the video, this is why I was talking about it. Anyone watched the video yesterday, I was super high on the Florida Rangers game stack, and that really paid off in a couple of GPPs. I say paid off as in I min cashed because yeah, it was a tough night without like 60 plus points. Like a 36-20 in cash is usually an absolute scoop, and I got absolutely scooped. So yeah, I didn't play too heavy. I kind of kept it cool and took some shots at the World Championship qualifier, which, like I said, was won by Saul Goodman, which a big congratulations to him. That's pretty awesome. But yeah, that was really the slate yesterday. Let's jump in today's. Basically, to give everyone a really quick rundown again of what I was talking about at such great length earlier and pointing around with my mouse. Club Brugge and Monaco and Tottenham and PSV are playing in the early slate. I'm not going to talk about it because one, I don't like it. Two, I don't like Tottenham. Three, I feel like I'm forced, if I was playing, to play Monaco, which would be really the most suboptimal decision possible, and I would just want to play like maybe a cheap GPP or something. So yeah, that's basically my early take. If you have to in cash, go with as much Tottenham as you can, but in GPP, I really feel like Monaco would be the way to go with that. But yeah, this slate, this is what's important. We got Dortmund, Atletico's traveling to Dortmund, and Inter's traveling to Barcelona. So basically, we are at the midpoint right now of Champions League. This is the third of 6 weeks of the first group stage. What happens after this slate is that we have an immediate reversal of the slates. So next slate, what's going to happen is that Dortmund are going to be traveling to Atletico Madrid, and Barca are going to be traveling to Inter immediately in the first game back. So this is incredibly important, massively, probably the most definitive point of today's slate, and I can't stress enough how important this is. So as we stand right now, both Club Brugge and Monaco are at 0 points, and Tottenham at Eindhoven are 0 points. Only one of these 4 teams this slate, or I should say 2 of these 4 teams, one from each group, can walk away with 3 points. So what that means is that if Dortmund and Atletico and Barcelona and Inter all tie, they're way happy with that. That's an incredible result for both of these teams. The main point for these 2 games today is what's going to happen is that they can't lose. They cannot lose. If they lose, their entire Champions League is up in the air. If they tie, they're absolutely fine. If they win, obviously gravy, and they'll be excited about that. But the big point here is that if they lose, they're in serious doo-doo. That's the PG version of what's about to happen, because as I said, Tottenham's going to go up a win here, and that means Tottenham's only 1 win away from getting back into this. And if, let's say, one of these 2 teams loses, Club Brugge is probably going to win. I don't see it as close as the Tottenham. It's more serious for these 2 teams not to lose. Now I'll get to that again in a second because that's super important. If you've watched any of my videos, read any of my articles, I constantly stress about how Atletico Madrid are not an attacking team. They're a defensive team, much like Juventus and Man United. They don't score more than 2 goals, rarely ever. And when it does happen, it's usually from like 2 of them are set pieces, penalty shots, usually Griezmann. So he does have that kind of GPP upside, but as a whole, Atletico just play for the 2-1, 1-0 wins. That's basically their style. And while Dortmund may be a little bit more attacking than Atletico is generally used to playing against, I don't see either of these 2 teams. Again, they don't want to lose. If they tie, it doesn't happen what matters, and it doesn't matter what happens in the other game, because they're basically 1 win away from both qualifying to the next round. So what I was saying right before I realized the mic was out in the previous video was that these teams basically are playing for the tie this slate. That's what they're looking for. A win, great, but they can't lose. And like we know this game is going to be low scoring as is, because that's what Atletico does all the time. And they're talented enough to keep literally every team in the entire world at bay to these kinds of score lines. But at the same time, Barca and Inter, like I said, there's going to be the reverse flip. We're immediately going to get a reverse flip. So let's say, for example, Atletico and Dortmund both draw this game, they tie, and Club Brugge wins with 3. Basically, what that means is that the very next slate, Atletico and Dortmund are playing again, and whoever wins that game advances. They don't need, neither of these the 2 games need to be resolved this slate. They're going to be resolved next slate. That's when these 2 teams, or I keep saying 2 teams, I'm sorry. These 2 games are going to actually play for the win, go out and look to actually pound the other team. So on one hand, we know, like I was saying, Atletico is super low scoring, so we can hedge just like the Manchester United Juventus game yesterday and the Ronaldo fade that paid off so well. We can hedge that Griezmann's probably not going to do very well because this is such a low scoring game, and he's going to need a GPP kind of lucky situation scenario in order to even remotely pay off, which includes having the rest of the slate crap out and literally nobody in the entire slate, because Griezmann's really expensive, as we'll see here shortly. So literally he has to raw points everyone, and chances are if his game finishes 2-1 max, like max scenario, yeah, he's not going to ceiling people. He's not going to raw points people. It's just not on. It's simple math. So, yeah, he'll need a pretty crazy scenario in order to be able to do this. And in the second game, neither, like, as much as like Atletico plays for close games, defensive games, these teams can't lose. Like if Barcelona loses, that means Tottenham is only a result away, because again, remember next slate, Tottenham is playing Eindhoven. So Tottenham's basically, unless they really screw up here, which I'm hoping, praying to soccer gods they do, they're looking at 6 points over the next 2 slates. So you can literally right now safely say with Tottenham that they're actually tied with these 2, unless they both draw the first game, and then they can still set themselves apart here from Tottenham. Because if that's the scenario, then Tottenham will be stuck at 6 points, and they'll both have 7, even before they lose their second game. So yeah, I can't see, like, the optimal scenario for these teams is the tie. Like, sure, a team can go out and win, but like them tying is better than them actually winning, because in order for them to win, they're going to have to put themselves out there to potentially lose, and neither team wants to lose. I'm sorry for droning on about that, but that is like the most crucial, important point of this slate, because I guarantee you everyone is going to be all over Coutinho, including myself in cash at the very least. But like the ownership on these teams are going to be monstrous, especially someone like Griezmann. I see, I foresee a bunch of people jumping all over Griezmann because so many people are expecting a low-scoring game. Just like yesterday, there was some really strange ownerships yesterday. So like I wouldn't be surprised again to see someone, a lot of people, game stack the Barcelona Inter game, and it finishes 1-1 with everyone at like 10K and not doing nothing. I know that's a little bit of hyperbole, because I don't even know if there's one person outside of like, no, Suarez isn't even up there. Coutinho isn't without Messi. So yeah, that's a little bit of a hyperbole, sorry. But yeah, that's just the way I see that. Now in Group C is easily the most crucial group of this slate. So as this stands right now, PSG and Napoli are playing this slate, and Liverpool is hosting Red Star Belgrade. Now, again, we have to remember we're getting an immediate flip of the slate next slate, so we can chalk on 6 points to Liverpool here. We can expect them to basically get 2 wins. And that's, again, same as unless they really screw up, Liverpool have 6 points to add on to that 3, and they're actually sitting at 9. So if either PSG or Napoli want to progress as the first team from this group, they're going to have to beat 9 points. Now, the thing about that is that, again, like I said, I'm sorry to keep driving this home again, we're getting the reverse slate. So whenever PSG and Napoli play, immediately again, one of these 2 teams is going to need to win both games. If they don't, Liverpool is going to finish ahead of them. So like it's a disaster actually for them to lose one game, really. So like, is it another situation where we could see a draw potentially? And PSG may just go for a 4.4 point and then try and leapfrog Liverpool later, because this is the big thing right now. PSG is actually in the driver's seat of this group because of their plus minus. Liverpool basically have to beat Red Star over the next two games by whatever PSG theoretically will beat Napoli by, plus 4 extra goals. And I think every single one of us can be. It's going to be close. Like, Red Star are not that good, so yeah, like it's going to be close. Liverpool could very easily close this gap unless PSG really push things on Napoli. And yeah, I see Kylian Mbappe as being the absolute lock play of this slate, because PSG need to win this game. And Napoli have not shown the ability to properly defend all season, let alone in Champions League so far. So, yeah, I'll talk about this more as we go, but like a Group C stack is one of my favorite ways to go this slate. Getting either PSG and Liverpool or Liverpool and Napoli, because obviously Liverpool are the team to lock this slate. We'll talk about that more too. But yeah, in terms of Group D, this is where I'll be turning whenever I'm looking for. Excuse me. Anytime I'm looking for value this slate, this is the games I'll be looking to, where Schalke is traveling to Galatasaray in Turkey for what's going to be an incredible game, and Porto making the crazy trip to Moscow to take on the Lokomotiv Moscow team, which is going to be an equally incredible game. A lot of this has to do with the salaries and the builds that it allows you to do. But if I'll touch very, very briefly on this. Actually, no. Yeah, actually, I'm going to touch really briefly on this. At the same time, I'm going to see if I can find something here that I want to bring up. So, traveling to Turkey is one of the most emotionally fearful things that you can possibly do as an international Champions League soccer player. The atmosphere in Turkish stadiums are insane. The passion that these people bring to games is more than terrifying. It's really a situation unto itself. Like, I'll give you a really quick glimpse here, just like a very quick, like, I know this is one little quick image. Imagine this with 80,000 people in a massive stadium, literally every single person looking like this. This is the real situation and scenario when you travel to Turkey. It's an absolutely terrifying place to go. I remember, I wonder if I can find that Chelsea whenever they long time ago, I think it was for Champions League, and they were getting off into the airport and walking in, and literally, like, they're just being swarmed everywhere, and they're chanting "Welcome to hell, welcome to hell, welcome to hell," and just like absolutely swarming them. Like, it was, yeah, it may have been Manchester United, like back in the 90s, that kind of thing. For anyone that isn't aware, too, like, England and Turkey have an incredibly serious hate for each other, soccer teams. So yeah, I know this isn't this isn't an English team. This is German. But in terms of traveling to Galatasaray is an absolute nightmare. And traveling to Moscow, I don't need to bring up a map. If you honestly need me to bring up a map to show you how far it is to go from Lisbon all the way to Moscow, that's basically the longest trip in Champions League this year. So you don't have to wonder how tired Porto are going to be coming into Moscow, and how Moscow are going to be jacked up from last week, seeing their rivals, their city rivals, beating Real Madrid at home. So yeah, very interesting games here. Let's jump into the slate. right away, Inter at Barca. I don't see much point for either goaltender. I think both are going to get scored on. So I don't really see either a safe win. I see the draw. So like at most, I see these goaltenders finishing with 4 to 6 fantasy points, just saves after allowing goals and not getting the win. So I'm really not interested there. In terms of defenders, I think that like you can get a little bit of value here with someone like Semedo, the Portuguese international, from only 4.6K. He's got all sorts of talent, but he hasn't really shown much offensive upside yet. And Asamoah plays is it that he plays as a midfield on here and he gets listed as a defender, and we get the one or the other. I can't remember. Remember to watch at if you're really thinking of an interesting GPP option, because this game could very easily just finish 0-0 and neither team scores, because like I said, neither team can lose this game. If they lose, they're in serious trouble. So yeah, you could be looking at a clean sheet, and it's on either site. It's either that on here he plays as a midfielder but gets listed as a defender, so we get an option at the clean sheet over here. Over on FanDuel, he's listed as a midfielder and plays defender, and we don't get the option at the clean sheet. So it's something like that, but just something to look at for Asoma, because he isn't an actual defender. But yeah, going forward, really, I think a lot of my focus this slate is going to be on the Barca players. It's not that I don't like Inter. I think Icardi could be really interesting again from 7.1, but I was so massive on him last slate, and he did well enough like to pay, but it borderline almost burned me. It almost really cost me because he didn't get his goal until really late. So yeah, I'm a little bit gun shy on Icardi for this slate. I know 7.1 is way too cheap, and if you're bought into the notion that both these teams are going to score more than once, he's absolutely viable in a game stack with all these other names, because these are just way too cheap. Luis Suarez hasn't been playing very well, but again, neither was Benzema, and he scored yesterday. And a goal from AK will do wonders. But really, if I'm looking at any kind of forward from this game, like a true forward, it's absolutely going to be Dembele up front at only 7.5K. It doesn't matter if they only score one goal this game. As long as it comes from him, you're going to be fine in GPP. I'm not too set on it for cash because he doesn't really have any kind of serious roll upside. Now, okay, no, sorry, let me rephrase that. He does take corners whenever Messi's out. So that's something to watch. I completely take back everything I just said there. I was thinking about someone completely else in a different game. Yeah, in terms of Dembele, you can use him in cash or GPP without Messi in the lineup. Personally, I prefer to go to Coutinho. I think you'll probably see a little bit more action than Dembele. But if you're like struggling for salary and you just can't spend up to the 7.3, absolutely get the 7.5. Now, in general, I think this is one of my favorite stacks for either cash or GPP. If you can get this into cash, I think you'll have a really safe floor of probably around 25 to 30 fantasy points to work with. And for GPP, it could get upwards of 40 to 50 fantasy points. So that's if they start combining too, like Under and Dzeko did in yesterday's slate. So I really do like the pair of them. I think I'd probably go, my first choice would be Coutinho, though. And like I said, there isn't really much defensive options here for me, mostly due to the lack of clean sheet that I see coming. I know Ambrosio was super cheap last slate, and that was probably why. So I'm not going to fall for that again. But yeah, if you want to get some Icardi and some game stacking, I wouldn't hate it for this game, because I think Liverpool are going to draw so much ownership that a lot of times people are only going to be able to get one or two tops of this game. And if you can get 3 or 4 deep and they happen to shoot out for two for each team, you're totally set, because yeah, the other routes will draw a lot of salary drainage. But yeah, Coutinho's my pick. I'm going to say 1-1, 2-2. just fade the defense, fade the goalie, fade the clean sheet chase. That's the only thing I'm really going to take from Inter and Barcelona because I don't see either team really winning. Second game, same situation really. Atletico traveling to Dortmund. Neither of these teams need to win. Atletico rarely looks for the win as is. Now, the only time I'm really comfortable playing Griezmann in cash is when I'm playing Dembele. And not Coutinho. If you play Coutinho with Griezmann, that's almost 20K of your salary eaten up. Where this, I know it doesn't seem like that big of a difference, but it actually is whenever you get to later scripting where you're able to choose 5K plus 5K players instead of having to choose around 4K to 4.3K players. So yeah, it's kind of crucial later on in builds. But in terms of, I'm just going to honestly, I'm going to fade the Atletico Dortmund game here today. I just don't see a low-scoring game being ultra viable in either format. My one concern obviously would be Griezmann and cash and missing out in case he gets a penalty shot and everyone has him and you're just instantly behind, especially in heads up. I'm really not comfortable playing a heads-up game without Griezmann. So that's probably why I'm not going to play this slate, because I would rather play Neymar. Absolutely. So, yeah, I think Dembele is really sharp, but I would rather go Coutinho from this. And, yeah, I'm going to fade Atletico and Dortmund because, like I said, it's just a super low-scoring game. And potentially you can get away with some keeper action here. See, the thing is that Atletico are historically this incredible clean sheet team, like incredible numbers in terms of defensive abilities, but they've been really poor defensively as of late, and they cost me bad last couple slates here. And like that may not seem like very much, but when he's the most expensive and the third most expensive keeper of the slate, and he's not even pulling off cash viable scores, that's denting your card. That's really setting you back. So 4.6K is definitely a more comfortable zone to attack Oblak from. I should say use Oblak from. But it's just I still expect both teams to score just like this game, but I expect it to be much closer, where this game will be much more boring. So yeah, 2-1 Atletico. Again, Oblak finishes with like 5 or 6 points, and it really doesn't get it done. And someone to watch out for is Guerrero if he ends up starting. He is one of the better DFS players in the world from a wingback. He shoots the ball like a madman. Yeah, see, like the same issue with like Koke hasn't cost me yet, obviously, but I just don't see this kind of output this slate. This isn't sustainable against Dortmund over the next 2 slates. Is it sustainable whenever they have to play Barca and Inter Club Brugge and Monaco, for the wins in a couple weeks' time? Absolutely, it's going to be totally in play, and Griezmann's going to be back to being an absolute cash lock because he's playing nobodies. But yeah, in this maybe next slate I'll think about them. But yeah, I'd rather just jump to Napoli and PSG because I think there's a lot better plays in here. One of my favorite plays to look at is Mario Rui at only 4.4K. This would be strictly for cash. He's played supremely talented teams already in Liverpool, and that still didn't stop him from putting in superb crossing numbers. He's basically the attack for Napoli. Like, that's how they get the ball up the field. Now, is it absolutely a stellar situation that he's going to be going up against the likes of Neymar and Mbappe and Cavani? No, obviously not. It's not optimal. But from 4.4K, you really don't need that much. And honestly, if he was going up against Salah and Sadio Mane and not having any issues, I don't know. Will it be that different? Will he really be that ruined from 4.4K? I don't think so. I think he should be absolutely fine, and probably doesn't deserve the salary drop other than we know it's PSG. So that's something I'm definitely considering. But yeah, in terms of This is tough. I think what you're going to have to do this slate is either go Neymar and cash and Mbappe and GPP, because Neymar is just going to take free kicks and take the penalty shot if it happens and take any corner that's on his side and just take all sorts of floor play, but also take ownership. And that may not be optimal in GPP when he finishes at 12 from a bunch of floor plays and no goals or maybe an assist. And Mbappe has 2 goals from a quarter of the ownership, a massive discount in salary, and really allows you to open up all sorts of different things. I would even play Mbappe in cash, honestly, just for the salary relief. Is it as optimal as Neymar? But I think it's a brilliant pivot, especially for GPP. If you really want to try and do something a little bit, especially for heads up. If you want to try and do something a little bit different in a heads up match against someone, they're probably going to be taking Neymar or Griezmann. Just go Mbappe and kind of try and build a little bit of goal-heavy lineup, because I think there's a lot of goal-heavy options here this slate that people are going to be relying on anyways. Like Icardi is a goal-heavy player at only 7.1K. So I still think there's a lot more options to this game than the super big names. I have one really bold take I'm going to make here, and what it is, well, there's 2 actually. Watch out for Choupo-Moting. Any EPL fans will remember him from Stoke. He's been playing that's the weird thing. Like watching him at Stoke, he isn't immediately a player you'd think would be PSG caliber, but he's adding a different element and really helping them along. They're kind of janky PSG going forward from defense to forwards. It's like once they get the ball to Mbappe, they're fine, but finding a viable and optimal way to get him the ball has been an issue. And Choupo-Moting adds a different element of kind of a rough and tough tumble aspect that not a lot of teams in France are really expecting, let alone from PSG. So if he starts, that is something I'm absolutely interested in GPP. But one of my more interesting GPP plays is from this game. Again, I think there's going to be goals on both sides and no clean sheet from this game. And since we've got these three huge games out of the way and there's no clean sheet, that kind of just leaves ultra value or Liverpool. And we're going to get there, but this is a really good script we're kind of building so far, because I'd prefer to go ultra value, chasing a clean sheet this slate with names like Neymar and Mbappe and Coutinho and and on and on and on. Or I'd rather go super, super safe with Liverpool, who haven't let a home goal in forever and ever. So, I think there's going to be goals from both sides. I think Milik is going to start as the striker for Napoli, and within the first 20 minutes, he's going to have either a penalty shot goal or a goal from a cross, a low cross that he's just going to tap into the net from the top of the 6. PSG are hurting at the back. Especially wing back. I do like Meunier a lot. He's kind of at this salary where that's too cheap. He's bound to do something from 5.7K. That's the kind of salary I'm looking at here from him. He's the kind of guy you'd expect to see up with the Mendy's and the Kollarovs and that kind of thing. So that's a discount, despite neither of these two teams have been very effective at the back. Marquinhos has been playing as the captain center back for PSG, and don't get me wrong, he's not horrible, but he's not Thiago Silva, that's for sure. And it's just Kim Perley is coming back from time off, so he may not be entirely fit. There's a lot to assume here that poor Dani Alves, I'm heartbroken for him. There's a lot to suggest here that Goulam's not going to be back, is he? No, there's no way he's going to be back yet. He would see more. We would hear more news about that. I'm going to say 2-2 draw or a 3-2 PSG win. I do like PSG to get the win here, and I do like both teams to score. But if I was to, like I stress anything, it would be Neymar in cash and Mbappe in GPP, or just take Mbappe in both and take the savings and run. He's been absolutely fire. He has like 12 goals in his last, forever Champions League games. So yeah, absolute flames Mbappe. I prefer him over Cavani 15 out of 10 times, no question. And I obviously wouldn't prefer him that many times over Neymar, but that salary just is too much to look away from. So yeah, 3-2 PSG. Fourth game of the slate. I'm just going to come out here and say it. I'm going to go against my own unwritten rules, my own meta plays that I stick by, and it has been a basic law that has seen me through all these times. Russian teams generally top out at 2-1 at home. That's generally where they go. And it's not always the win column. It's very often the other side. And what happens is that the other team does enough to win, but not enough to win big because, like I said, they're traveling literally to the other side, basically, of the continent to Moscow to play. So a lot of teams show up and aren't really up for it a lot of times. And they'll just be, and like I said, a lot of teams will resort to just their basic skills that they have, like the big names, and eke out wins. Make no mistake, Porto is not one of those teams. They're not a big team that's going to come into Moscow and have their way and just rely on their basic skill sets to get a result. End of story. Now, I'm going to quickly run through this because they're obviously not without talent. Iker Casillas, if you are, again, I always like bragging about Iker Casillas because he kind of gives me hope that maybe my life as a soccer player isn't over and I can kind of revert back to a goaltender. As anyone sees in my Twitter profile picture, I play goalie in Summer League now just because I'm so damn slow. It's just where I reverted to. So hopefully my life isn't over yet either. Iker Casillas was a badass before Ronaldo was even playing. Like, this guy was Spain before Spain was even Spain. Yeah, like literally, if Buffon is the most historic goaltender in the world, Casillas is easily number 2. It's not even, I mean, active goaltender still playing, obviously. Casillas is a legend. So I'm not here sitting and telling you that Casillas is garbage and all this. He's literally one of my favorite players of all time. So I'm not coming at this from a place of like bias. If I was, I'd be saying that Porto would get a clean sheet because Russian teams rarely score more than a goal. So if it's going to be a low scoring game, we can just rely on the other team to have at least a shot at a clean sheet. And I'm not buying into that this slate. I'm very convinced that Lokomotiv are not only going to score, but going to score more than once and win the game. And 5.2K, because Porto have historically struggled, period, keeping clean sheets, let alone in the Champions League, let alone in their domestic league. That just isn't their strong suit. So I know that against Galatasaray it happened. I wouldn't read too deeply into that. We'll talk about Galatasaray in a bit. But yeah, like that 16 fantasy points from 5.6K only gets you so far when you had to spend that much. And don't forget, at the same time, too, they still have Telles, who, yeah, is still an excellent option in his own right. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you not to play Telles, except for his enormous salary, which, as I mentioned earlier, isn't really where I'm looking this slate in terms of defense. So it kind of plays into my hand that I think Lokomotiv are going to do a lot better than people are really giving them credit for. And I'm not entirely bought into the concept that Telles is going to do any better than Trent Alexander-Arnold or Robinson this slate because of the clean sheet that I see coming their way. Now, am I going to completely fade them 100%? No. I am a Casillas fan. I am going to play him. I am going to stack him with Telles and their other wingback, probably Pereira, and try and chase a clean sheet and go back to my unwritten rule law meta play that Moscow games are usually 2-1 low-scoring games. But outside of that, one of the reasons I really like Moscow so much this slate, Bukabar is going to be out. He won't be playing. And Marega will be playing a full 90 minutes. Now, last time around, I was all in on Marega, and he definitely paid off at 18 fantasy points. And normally, I think what my instinct would be to go right back to the well on him. And I think that's a mistake. I think a lot of people, that was the thing of like, I thought I was being sneaky with Marega last slate, and he was very highly owned, very highly owned. And that surprised me. And I haven't forgotten that. And I think what's going to happen again this slate is people are going to see, oh, wow, Portuguese team is going up against a Moscow team. They're going to win 4-0. And that's just not the case. And I think a lot of people are going to go right back to the well in Marega and be sorely let down. He could even play 90 minutes. I just don't see him scoring more than 4 to 7 fantasy points. So yeah, I think, like I said, I would definitely be more on the defensive side. Sure, take Marega. Sometimes he's only 6.3K, but the locomotive options here are just absolutely obscene for being a home team. Now, without a Bukabar and the assumption that this is going to be a low-scoring game, we can kind of hedge a little bit that potentially they could come out here with a clean sheet. Now, obviously, it isn't the most optimal of things to shoot for with Locomotive, but they have really great options across the board. Rybus should be coming back and is an excellent value from only 4.2K. I have absolutely no issue with him. Howard's been playing left back for the past 2 games and seeing 90 minutes. I have absolutely no problem. If he starts left back again, he's basically a cash lock for me, 100%, no question. And this is where I really started to open my eyes to Moscow this weekend. Now, am I saying that they're going to go out and they're going to go absolutely ham Roma style and I'm going to get takedowns? No, this is your fill team. When you have all the Liverpool and the Napoli or the PSG or the Barca, and you have all these major salaries, you're like, oh, wow, I'm at like 4.3K left and I still need a forward. Look to Locomotive across the board here. You can pile this entire team as a stack, and all they need is to be involved in 2 goals, and you're completely set. From 1 goal from these salaries, and you're fine. 2 goals, you're in literal takedown mode. So, yeah, I have no problem with Howdes and cash. I'm building my original cards as if Howdes is going to be starting at left back, but that may not be the case. You may have to go to Ignatieff at 4K, who is just spending up 1K. But like I said earlier, that's the difference between the Mbappe and the Neymar. You're able to actually get a legitimate wingback, Ignatieff, who is very talented, instead of Howdes, who's technically a center back, and we're just kind of taking a little bit of a salary punt with a 3K. So yeah, Ignatieff's a good option. But really, Mario Fernandez is one of my favorite cash options this slate. 6K is way too cheap going up against Porto at home. Do I think he's going to go out and get 2 goals? No. But he handles all the set pieces for Moscow. They should get a fair amount. I see him with an excellent floor. He should. I think he even has goal upside this slate. So I love Mario Fernandez. Manuel, excuse me, I keep calling him Mario. Manuel Fernandez. I have him in cash and GPP. He's my Ziyech from yesterday, except at a massive discount. He should be 8K. If Locomotive were playing as any kind of like an exciting brand of soccer outside of Moscow, then we could expect an 8K salary. So we're getting a huge discount here. And this is the situation right now with Locomotive. Both Smolov and Farfan should be out today. Neither of them should be able to play. Both of them got hurt over the weekend. So while obviously I'm not going to pretend like this isn't the literal other side of the world for me, so you're going to have to cut me a little bit of slack as kind of like a mid-range skilled guy here. I'm not telling you like the most viable certificated certificated news of all time. But from what I understand, Smolov and Farfan are both going to be missing this slate, and Eder should be starting up front and playing 90 minutes. I'm just throwing that out there. 4.5K is way too cheap against any team at home for 90 minutes. You have to immediately consider that, especially when we consider it's Porto, who, with someone like Telles, should draw a fair amount of defensive ownership that we could really smash into. Because there's a difference between taking a forward like Marega that could do well, but the difference between Marega doing well and Eder doing well is that no one's going to be on the locomotive defense. So if Marega's out there doing well, people aren't actively losing points on the other side of you gaining points. So Marega isn't as valuable in that sense. But on the other hand, Eder is going to be out here smashing so many people chasing clean sheets with Telles that I think it really could what's the word I'm thinking of, lower Telles's overall ceiling, make him not as viable from 5.8K, which is why I'm more on Alexander Arnold and Robertson, excuse me. But yeah, in terms of locomotive, get Fernandez in, and if you're looking to take, if you really need that salary discount, Eder is absolutely where you want to turn up front this slate. 100%. They do have another option that I'm really into. It's just okay, give me a second. I think it's not Alexei. It's not number 15 that we're interested in. That isn't the one. We're looking for the one with the crazy number, like the 99 or 59, 16. What? Anton, Alexei. Oh, which one is it? I'm pretty sure it's this one. Let's take I know what we'll do. This is how I found it earlier. Low. I wonder if I spelled that right. No. Let's try Moscow. It's actually Locomotive Moscovia. That's why I typed in the Moscovia the first time. They're usually pretty literal here. So let's take a look which one it is. Anton. Was I right? Oh, sorry. That's just, we can close that now. Anton. Which one's Anton? Alexei. So we don't want the 4.61. We want the 3.1K one, Anton, number 16. This is what I was looking for earlier. Sorry. Yeah, expect much better minutes this slate with both Farfan and Smolov expected out. So, again, if you're looking for even more super discount option, you can drop down to actually, I think both the Moranchuks are partially viable, aren't they? Was the other one coming on the fields? I didn't see him. So yeah, definitely going to be a target for me this slate. Anton Marachuk. That's Alexei. I'm going to assume they're brothers, but yeah, yeah. Who knows? I know nothing, Jon Snow. I know nothing. But yeah, like I said, with those two out, we can expect a lot more minutes from the likes of Manuel Fernandez. See, there's the other one. That's the one. Alexei. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Alexei, this is the one I was really thinking of, the number 59. And he's not listed as number 59 on here. That's why that was really surprising. It is the 4.6K. Jeez, I'm sorry for backwards talking here the whole way. I really do apologize for that. I am trying to be genuine in my attempt to get the information across that one of the Moranchuks is actually a really good play this slate. But it is the 4.6K one. He's the one that we can expect to play up front or in the wing and play a lot more minutes. He came off there on the weekend to make sure that he'd be fresh for this weekend. So yeah, I have absolutely no issue with him. He's been excellent so far the Champions League, and I think with a goal he could really take a step up. Now, is this something I would do in cash? I would rather go Eder in cash because he should be getting more minutes up front. We can take a look at more of their fixtures if you'd like, but for the past previous 3 games to this, Eder had been the starting striker until he took 2 red cards, 2 yellow cards. Excuse me. You see, there's Moranchuk. This one we were just looking at. And then this was the one where Eder took the red card, obviously, like I was saying. And see, he was the starting striker before that for 90 minutes before. And as I was saying, Alexei is getting 90 minutes as a really attacking player anyways. So yeah, it's the Anton that comes off the field. The cheap one's the one that comes off the field. So yeah, spend up on the Moranchuk. That's basically my point for Lokomotiv this slate. Sorry that took so long to talk about, but I really feel passionate about Lokomotiv being one of the teams that we're going to need to get involved with this slate. I'm thinking, honestly, I want to say a 3-0 win Lokomotiv, but that would be like the craziest GPP script of all time. So let's just stick with the usual Moscow 2-1 win. But their salaries, Fernandez should be in on both. And I think Eder will get one and Moranchuk will get the other. And just make sure you get the right expensive Moranchuk. Next game on the slate is Schalke. Traveling to Galatasaray. Now, I talked very briefly on this earlier, but we have the trip here, and we just have the terrifying, life-threatening situation when you go to Galatasaray. Everything this game suggests that Schalke should win, except for the fact that Schalke have been absolutely garbage this season. Let's bring up the a Bundesliga. I know it's called that, but I want to. Whoa! Guess who's getting relegated this year? The team that's currently in the Champions League, Schalke. They've been garbage this season. Absolutely brutal. So we can expect Galatasaray to potentially, again, not only win this game, but come away with another really sneaky clean sheet. So yeah, I have no problem with Muslera in cash. I think I'd prefer him in GPP just because I'm a little bit suspect on the Schalke attack. Is still very capable. Brian Bolo is going to be out. Again, it's not showing up in DraftKings, but from what I've been reading, he's injured. So Mark Alt could be getting 90 minutes, and that 7.4K just may be enough to scare people away. And not come on him and him be absolutely unowned and have multi-goal upside, because make no mistake, as good as Muslera is as a goaltender, Galatasaray still are not a perfect team. They're still not like an elite world team. And frankly, Muslera had to stand on his head in both the previous games this season just to make sure he got by with a win. So yeah, I'm not entirely set on Muslera. He didn't even get the win there. They lost 1-0. He still did fine though at 6 from 3.8. But like, this is my point. They love to overprice Porto and DraftKings. Like, I know they cross the ball a lot, and that's why. But yeah, I'm just little bit torn on what to do with Galatasaray, because they do have really interesting options. Like Nagamoto is borderline cash viable at 4.1K. I really don't mind him at all, especially if you're playing Muslera. I think that makes for a really smart stack. He should do enough to not hurt you, and at the same time open up enough options for a potential clean sheet and better scripting throughout the slate with his pretty decent salary. But yeah, I'm torn in terms of. I'll put this in for now because Akbala is still an excellent world-class cash play in terms of Champions League standards. 6.2K is way too cheap for him. He didn't play last game, which was an absolute disaster for me because like I built everything around him. But he should be good to go back in this slate, and I have no issue originally starting my builds around him, because if he just doesn't show up, I'm just going to take him out and keep Fernandez in anyways. And there's still another player here in Liverpool I'm going to talk about. But yeah, in terms of, I don't really have Rodriguez is a very interesting pivot away from Akbaba, excuse me. And another guy I really like is Selçuk Inden. He's more of a FanDuel play for me, but he scored in 6 of his past 8 games in Champions League that he started. So he has one of the highest pass percentages in the entire Champions League. Excellent player. 4.9K is just, it's one of those salaries that's too cheap. Like, he's going to do things from that salary. So I have absolutely no issue with him. Yeah, I'm obviously a little bit more in tune with the likes of Akbaba. I think Akbaba has much more cash upside. If you're really looking to take a little bit of a discount and kind of a little bit more risk upside, especially if Akbaba isn't starting, I have no issue with just dropping down to and just hoping for a little bit of a positive upside variance. But yeah, I'll keep him in there for now. I'll say 2-0 Galatasaray, because I think this is viable at the back here. But yeah, it's probably going to be closer to 2-1. 2-2 even. It could be a game stackable game. It's tough to know where Galatasaray are going to get their goals from. They're a very unviable attacking team. That's why I really like to target the floors of Selçuk, Rodriguez, and Akbaba. Obviously, Dederick paid off for me fairly well last night, but that last 8 minutes really cost me severely when they were hosting Moscow. So yeah. Again, we have to remember for these 2 games right here, the Porto Moscow and Shakhtar Galatasaray, that they're basically, there needs to be a winner here. Like because for example, Porto know if they beat Schalke, they're basically through. All they need is for one more result and they're through. If Schalke wins, it's the exact same situation. So both of these teams, again, they need to win. They need to win. It's not that they don't need to lose. They straight up need to win, because if Galatasaray manages the result against Schalke, they're going to catapult. Especially if Moscow manages the result against Porto, they're going to catapult up too. So like Schalke knows that if they don't, they know that if they don't win this game, they're in serious trouble. Because either if they lose, Galatasaray is going up, and either Moscow is jumping up to them, or Porto's getting out of reach. One or the other is going to happen here. So like, yeah, I think Schalke's going to be forced to go for this and open things up, and Galatasaray is going to catch them on the counterattack. Conversely, I think Porto know they're going to need to go for this, and they're going to open themselves up as well. I don't feel as confident about that as I do with the Galatasaray and Schalke, because Porto have been playing a little bit better than Schalke. But yeah, this slate, like I said, tons of value in here. We're going to have to focus on that a lot. 2-0 Galatasaray. I really like that score. That's what I'm hoping for anyways. In the final game, we have Red Star traveling to Liverpool. So basically, the debate is very simple. Is Red Star going to score in Liverpool? Yes or no? If it's no, which is kind of the resounding answer, especially in cash, you have to go Allison. There's no option. Like, especially, again, let's break down the list. Both teams should score. Both teams should score. Both teams should score. Both teams should score. Galatasaray has a shot at a clean sheet bonus. Liverpool is literally the only team that has like a certifiable chance at a clean sheet before kickoff. So, yeah, I have no problem with Allison. I have no problem with Trent Alexander-Arnold if you can somehow fit them in. Because this is where the issue kind of arises, is that like maybe you don't even want to try and take Mbappe in the Napoli matchup, and just focus more on spending a little bit more floor elsewhere. Because I think Allison and they're walking clean sheet bonuses. Their clean sheet bonus is way more guaranteed to me than any goal upside in this entire slate. So it's as valuable as a goal too, especially when you stack it three ways. And we're not even considering all the crosses and upside that Trent Alexander-Arnold brings to the slate as is. He was rested in the weekend for Joe Gomez and right back, so I'll be very surprised if Alexander-Arnold doesn't get the full 90 minutes here. Now, we also know going forward too, at the same time, I have no issue with Van Dijk at 3.9K, way too cheap. In a GPP, if you want to try and stack the three-way, I'm absolutely going. The first time I'm going every way is Alexander-Arnold and Van Dijk with Allison. Now, obviously, Nagatamo isn't the biggest cash play of the slate, so we can drop him out there just to keep the skeleton friendly. I love James Milner this slate. Probably my favorite cash play. 7.8K. It's expensive enough to scare people away, but at the same time, he should be 8.5. Liverpool are really hurt in the midfield. Wijnaldum, Henderson, Nabe are all most likely not going to be playing. Wijnaldum's a maybe, but that just means that they're going to see way more consistent time, especially without Jordan Henderson. We know Milner is basically sitting on a 90-minute game here. There just isn't enough people that can come and take him off for an extended period of time. So I like him to see 90 minutes at home against a nobody team, and he should absolutely dominate without question. For the forwards, I'm kind of a wait and see on who starts. I'm pretty sure Sadio Mane is going to be out for a bit, so I don't mind going back to Shaqiri. I think in the case, especially if Milner doesn't start, and Shaqiri does, you really need to get Shaqiri in because he's going to handle a lot of the free kicks, especially the scoring situations. Basically, I have no issue with Shaqiri in either format. Especially that's if Milner doesn't start. Sorry, if Milner starts, keep Shaqiri to GPP and take Milner in cash. But yeah, I have absolutely no issue with that whatsoever. I think Liverpool should smash for 6, like an old the Liverpool we've been expecting all the last couple months or the last month I should say, couple weeks. And the one thing I'm really excited for here is that I think enough people have been burned by Liverpool over the past couple of weeks of performances to the point that they're not going to instantly just click on Liverpool. They're going to instantly click on Barcelona. They're going to instantly click on PSG. They're going to instantly click on Griezmann. They're not going to get all the way to Liverpool. And when they do, they're going to be like, oh, man, Salah really screwed me this weekend when he only got that goal and only finished at 15 with his 11K salary or whatever. And I know that isn't the most sound of logic. I'm not oblivious to my lack of sometimes, but yeah, I'm not really keen on Salah. I just think there's a lot. If I'm going for that kind of upside, I'd rather go with Mbappe. But at the same time, I'm definitely taking a bunch of Liverpool stacks in GPP and just going ham on Liverpool and duplicating them as many times as I can and filling them with the Locomotive and Galatasaray and finding some different values throughout the slate. I do obviously think the Liverpool defensive stack is the most viable of the entire slate. It has more promise than any goal upside ceiling, especially when we consider all the ties that I'm predicting. Allison is basically, he really should raw points this. Honestly, can we expect, I guess maybe Inter could be shut out away from home. I guess Atletico could shut out Dortmund considering they're a shutout historic team. PSG could theoretically shut out Napoli because they're so much better than Napoli. Porto could theoretically shut out Locomotive because it is Moscow team and it is Ilker Casillas. I really don't see a shutout coming from here except for Galatasaray. And like I said, Liverpool, like Alisson's just a surefire shutout. That's basically it. That's really my take there. But that is really my my breakdown on DraftKings. I didn't go enough over in FanDuel. This was my stack yesterday from FanDuel. Obviously, that I hit pretty well with too. I didn't talk about that earlier, but what I'm going to do very quickly is bring up the FanDuel slate and let's take a look at it, because there's always some, as I like to call it, the egregious underpricings of FanDuel. And we usually get a few different guys here that start on a whim that FanDuel definitely don't price for. So let's take a look at goaltenders. And you can see, again, Casillas is really highly favored. I'm not sure why. But again, I know he isn't going to get the same saves as everyone, but he's the only clean sheet, in my opinion, of the whole slate. I think Graham could make a really interesting GPP. You'll notice Muslera is still at only 5.52. So I don't mind either Muslera or Alisson in cash. I obviously prefer Alisson since we get him at the same price. Put Guillem in some GPPs as well. But for defense, you can see how highly priced Meunier is over here, and he's a wingback. Remember, they don't price crosses; they price chance creations. So 5.5 is again probably too cheap for Tellez, but I'm just looking even cheaper this slate down here. Just hunting the super value of the defense, because generally there's a few different guys that start down here, like I said, that are next to Min's salary. If Guerrero starts, he'll shoot the ball 5 or 6 times, so he'll more than pay off from 4.5K against Atletico. Where is? Just leave it open if I can't find them. Yeah, Linus is a great option down here from 4.5K. I'm not going to touch D'Ambrosio again. I still feel the burns from that last time. We must be getting close. Brian Edu is interesting if he gets to start. Like I said, the Moscows are so cheap down here. I don't see who I'm looking for, so I'll just leave it blank, and I'll bring it up in Slack tomorrow. That's probably where it belongs anyways. But in terms of the midfield, Coutinho is a little bit too expensive, and that's a concern because I really want to get him in as many cards as I possibly can. So I've kind of having to pivot away from him a little bit and just look down the list, obviously. And then we get to guys like James Milner, who's just too cheap down here. Now you see Miranchuk obviously gets the respect he deserves over here, where on DraftKings he's getting none. So I have absolutely no issue with him over there. See, Akbala is actually going to be playing. I know it says he isn't on this just because he missed last game on Champions League because of a foot issue. But we'll leave that blank too, and then we'll jump up to forwards. And I'm not psyched about Neymar. I know he's going to play 90 minutes, but when you do that, it's you're done. You have to slide all the way down here and try and find a cash viable forward down here, which just isn't easy. There are a couple options for cash, but in terms of basically, if you're playing Neymar, you're going to have to take this risk and hope that Eder can manage to score for Lokomotiv, and it isn't that crazy of a hope. It really isn't. Marega is just too expensive. I have no problem with that. And another guy I'm interested in too is Zematin Lakatagov. No disrespect, I'm just a piece of crap, and I've been up for literally 30 of the past 40 hours, so I'm not doing great right now. So this Russian is a youngster. He's going to be a former future superstar. I don't think he's going to start over Eder. If he does, hold him in the same regard as Eder. You're just taking that risk for salary. It makes no difference which one you're going with. It should be Eder though. But again, I really don't like Neymar's salary over here. I didn't like it on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, it's borderline untouchable, especially when you can drop down for 1,000 less than Mbappe, or even again drop down even further to Dembele, who's got tons of goal upside. And then, as I said, Workbar should be missing. Milik for GPP. Politano has cash upside. He isn't my favorite cash play of the bunch, obviously, but he does have it. And then you can see Alth down here is an incredible option for GPP because he's so much cheaper. But yeah, again, like it's not void down here. It's not completely void of options. I think for FanDuel, probably where I would go with my cash is Dembele and just try and chase that goal upside. And I know that's a little bit risky. I definitely wouldn't go Suarez. Let's put it that way. If anything, it's probably going to be Mbappe, and I'll just try and spend down on defense again and have a little bit extra because, yeah, there's still tons of crazy. I know there's one in here in particular I can't find off the top of my head. But yeah, you can even use Rui if you really want to, but I'm not so keen over here. We'll put in Alexander-Arnold for now. I think that is more than viable. And we can even just take out Mbappe, and that leaves you with 11.25 each way with, let me just show you, 11K. So yeah, that's more than enough to build a viable cash card with. It all depends how much risk you're willing to take up front this slate. Are you going to risk Eder? If you are, you're going to open yourself up to all sorts of incredible scripts with all sorts of huge names that you can literally stack in or choose from, pick or choose. Like you can take a PSG and a Barcelona player here, and you don't have to take the same team. You can diversify it. So I actually recommend that. That's what I plan on doing, getting a little bit of both sides. So yeah, that's really it in terms of my my slate breakdown. A lot again is going to be interesting to see who starts for Locomotive. That's going to determine a lot of my builds this slate simply because they are where I will be turning for my value plays every single time. So yeah, I really like Alexei Matatraki on DraftKings. He's actually I hate saying this because, again, I know I'm going literally against everything I'm supposed to stand for. But I just am in crazy love with this Russian opportunity of shooting out this game. Why can't I find? Strange. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, everyone. That's basically it. I know what I'm looking for now. Do I already? Yeah, I must have him in there. Do I? No. Fernandez, where is he? 6.5K. 6.5K. Easiest play of the slate. Then you don't even need to risk that. You're still like absolutely slaying. So if you don't want to take Eder too, who cares? If they combine for one goal, yeah, you literally just need everyone else to exist for their basic run of 90 minutes, and you're going to win all the monies. So yeah, I have no issue with the Russians is where I'm going to be looking this slate. Let's just end it on that. I'm going to be all over Locomotive, and it scares me because it goes against everything I've stood for as a DFS player, which is to not go after Russian games because they just don't stack well and they don't score well. But I'm going this slate. I'm going for it. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening to my droning on. Thanks for listening to my second version of this video today. If you got any comments, make sure to put either here. I'll try and get at it. Hit me up on Twitter, RadRobDiamond. If you know any of the message boards that you see me on any of them, hit me up on there with a private message. Hit me up on Slack. Jump on, get involved in our RotoPros. We're doing a good thing over here. Been absolutely slaying basketball this season. It's been madhouse. So make sure to get involved here because we're doing great things. So like, comment, subscribe. Check out the timestamps if you want to review. Thanks a lot for tuning in, everyone. Hope to see you all this afternoon at the top of the leaderboards, and I will be back tomorrow morning with an NHL show. So make sure to tune in for that. So have a good night, everyone. Take care. Good luck. Much love.